Welcome to the game 2 of the final of the Worcester Manaleak tournament in November. Again, same players as before, so we have Taurian on the left playing Weyland and Dave on the right playing Andromeda, who he took a mulligan, whereas Taurian didn't. This game is pretty epic, it's pretty long, and in places it's a little bit slow. I'll do my best to try and fill the spaces in where I can with some remarkable insights and witty banter, but I suspect that you may be twiddling your thumbs on some occasions. You can imagine the stakes are quite high for the final. And with first click, we have green level clearance. Looking to draw through to his tag and bag materials, so he's protecting HQ, some sensible precaution against Andromeda. And taking a credit. Leaving R&D open, so obviously be rude not to have a look. However, we're starting off with a sure gamble, as you do. Always nice to see in an opening hand, and even more likely with Andromeda. So now the question is where does he attack? Having a bit of a chat. But obviously, not aware that my camera recorder battery is dying horribly, and they're just taking it easy. This is just casual. They don't mind that my camera battery's only got minutes left. Curses. I'm sure there's some deep psychological workings going on here. So he's going to dirty laundry R&D and hope to see something, which he doesn't, but he will still get the money. No loss of tempo. So that's the second click. Third click, he'll play a daily casts, which he will fill up at the end of his go. And with his final click, play a Plascrete, which I'm assuming is almost certainly what he mulliganed for in the first place. He again, Taurian plays an incredibly aggressive tag and bag deck, always has. I wouldn't go as far to say he always will, but certainly it's something to be expected, and again, one of the main reasons why I know Dave runs 3 Plascretes in his deck. So scoring a hostile takeover there. So an early bad pub for Dave, which isn't too bad. But obviously it's a kind of double-edged sword. The extra money that is gained there with Taurian leads potentially to that Sea-Source double Scorch combo, regardless of whether there's a Plascrete down or not. You have to be very careful with the amount of money you have available. So a score there, Project Atlas. So there's now 2 points to 1. The last match ended 7-6, so the game pretty much has to be concluded regardless. And there's me just tidying up for the sake of the camera. I like to contribute where I can. So he'll run again and score again. A false lead, so it's now 3 points to 1. What are the odds, I think Taurian's saying there. I'm sure someone can probably tell me. But either way, it's a happy start for Andromeda. But again, it's not necessarily a case where agendas is how Weyland wins. It's there, but I would suggest more often than not, it's the Scorch that you're looking for. And so it becomes an economy game very quickly, this match. Trying to avoid that horrific combination of Sea-Source into double Scorch.
I'm not saying you've got it.
Plascrete be damned. It's Case Jones, and use Case Jones for his third and fourth clicks. So the economy is already very strong there. Already seen a sure gamble, dirty laundry, daily cast, and a Katie. His economic engine is running at full pelt. It's just a case now of finding the key breakers if he needs them. Another protector, again, another ice against HQ. Surprising. Surprised he didn't look to seal up R&D there. Giving him the free digs in R&D is a risky manoeuvre. Perhaps again indicating that he's been agenda flooded there. Lots of agendas in hand. Or maybe he wants to protect and make sure that he can't see the scorched combo. Who knows? A hedge fund. Sorry, I'd say a hedge fund to for his final click, I believe there. So again, the money very much in the pot. Maybe he already has the pieces to the puzzle, which is certainly, I know what's going through Dave's mind here. If he already has, he could. So he runs. I think he sees an enigma there. Not an agenda, but again, for free, you might as well have a look. Another 3 on Katie, and I think again he just drew up there. But playing again, you have to play very, very cautiously against Weyland. You want to be very careful as to how much money you leave yourself. He's discarding another Katie Jones that he doesn't need there. Does he have another more discard? I think he's right. Probably drawing up, looking for another Plascrete, to be honest. Already in a strong position on 3 points. And a bad publicity. There's no immediate rush. He's scored the early agendas he needs to go on and potentially win this game. All he needs to do is protect himself against the Scorched Earth combo. If he can do that, then he should be comfortable. And obviously, the problem of running against unchecked dice at the moment, unres dice, is that any one of them could be Archer, especially with the 1 point agenda in play. So it's again being very, very careful, very cautious. Having said that, he doesn't actually currently have any programs, so there's no real risk as of yet, which all the more reason for him not to res it until he does have programs. So setting up the remote there, again leaving R&D undefended. It's certainly, again, going to make anyone wonder as to why. I'll have a look, obviously, first of all. I know for a fact that Taurian is running snares in the deck, 3 snares. So looking to take down the cards via net damage, as well as potentially leaving a tag. You certainly don't want to hit a snare on click 3 or even click 4, certainly not click 4, but it's a very dangerous place to be. So you have to be very careful. If he hits the snare, it could spell a very nasty end. One of the reasons potentially why he's leaving R&D wide open, egging him on, at least until he reaches a point where of critical mass with agenda scoring. And again, money is a real issue. If you can keep Seasource out of play, then you can keep the Double Scorch out of play. So it's the definite options here, hence the reason again why he's investing more in Katie, and yeah, just discarding his hand down. Get rid of an account siphon there. An interesting card to get rid of. It's one you like to hold on to until you know what ice is actually on HQ. So Jackson Howard goes into the remote, drawing 2. So again, there's no attempt here to be scoring agendas particularly. I have no doubt I know exactly what he's looking for. So there's the protection on R&D. No more free looks. And suddenly a breaker suite is required. So he's going to run an R&D. And he sees, I've got absolutely no idea, the glare on that's absolutely horrendous. I think that's an Enigma or an Ice Wall. I'm pretty sure that's an Enigma. Horrible glare cards. He's going to have a look at archives. Sees a discarded snare and an archer as well. There looks to be a Grim on top. Lots of program trashing. Yeah, there's a Grim on top. So yeah, there's an Enigma there on R&D. Shadow got rid of the glare on the card sleeves. Again, apologise profusely for my absolutely hideous camera quality. It is something I hope to address in the not too distant future, but for the time being, I guess some video is better than no video. So I'll do my best to try and make it as clear as I can. Certainly from recollection, if nothing else. So using Jackson to draw through, having a look, seeing if he can find the components he needs to either solidify his board position or potentially go in for the lethal combination. But with the Plascrete down, and Dave not dropping below 4 cards for life, for love nor money, it's a very difficult thing to be able to find. Perhaps it's come more into play now that we have cards like the Cleaners in Second Thoughts, but that's still a 5/3 agenda that requires to be scored, but an extra point of meat damage per Scorched Earth is nothing to be sneezed at and can burn through the Plascrete and the hand size effortlessly. 10 meat damage, nothing ain't going to stop that really, unless you double Plascreting anyway, which is certainly a legitimate play. With Weyland due to receive even more tricks in the next data pack, such as Power Shutdown, they look to be certainly be a force to be reckoned with. Also, Restructure as well was a big deal. Potentially 6 credits there, but this was obviously released before Second Thoughts came out, so you won't see any restructures in this one. So giving some thoughts to what to discard, either maybe he's agenda flooded and get rid of some agendas, he's got the Jackson Howard on the table, or perhaps he's looking to get rid of economy card he doesn't need. Again, it's difficult to know. It depends what win he's going for at this stage. And with no icebreakers on the table, it's difficult to know what to trash. So special order, we would presume going to find either a sentry breaker in case of face checking an archer, or, as in this case, a Yogg to break through the Enigma for free. So have a look at R&D, please. See nothing. I think that might have been a beanstalk on top there. So the Enigmas are now dead cards. He's going to want to look to solidify that. I'm surprised he didn't destroy his Enigma. It didn't really have any use. Probably would have been the smarter play to save himself a credit, just trash the Enigma and put the other piece in front of R&D. When you're breaking through for free, there's not a lot of point leaving it there, unless you're hoping to trash the programs later on with the judicial use of Archer. And protecting that remote again, obviously I would assume preparing it for agendas. But not just yet, so he's going to take another credit. And as you can see, Dave's being very careful here not to weaken his credit pool substantially. Speaking of which, there's the short gamble. They're on a comparable amount of credits each. Again, Dave very careful to avoid the scorch. So we're going to dirty laundry into archives, at which point Taurian uses his Jackson Howard and shuffles 3 cards back into R&D. So again, ditching the agendas by the looks of it. A bit concerned about Dave running his hand. Perhaps he had a fair old few. Dave having a quick look through the archives, seeing what's already gone. Probably looking to see how many snares have gone anyway. Snares and archers, obviously being the key threats other than Scorched Earth in the deck. An archer there on top. Much rather see him in archives than on the table, especially with a 1-point agenda in play. Taking money. Lots and lots of money. And installing into the remote as well, so with 2 pieces of unresed ice, you would have to presume it's an agenda. Looking at, there's certainly a gap. All he needed an ice wall. There's one of those, and he can score it with impunity unless a corrode is in hand. As Dave's drawing up, I would suspect that's not the case. Could always be a snare face down, but I don't think this is probably the time for it. And so installing a Crypsis. Interesting. I think we've got only one click left. So now can break through anything he needs, but it obviously costs the money. A real issue. And then another 3 on Katie. So score the false lead. Taking it to 2 points to 3 points. And again, a false lead there, making snare even greater threat. You can no longer run, effectively, you can no longer run now on Weyland, or on Taurian, click 2. It's just, you can't do it. If you hit the snare, it's a sacrifice the false lead, lose 2 clicks, and then it's straight into a scorched earth. Even a triple scorched, potentially, because you still have the tag from the snare. So snares are now dangerous, and click 2, 3, 4 runs are out of the question until all the snares are off the board. So really, if you're going to run, it has to be click 1 now. Snares are the biggest threat. And tags are lethal. So, envisaging that, we now have the Deus Ex being installed. Dave emphatically indicating that he's not going to be hit by a snare on his watch. He still take the tag, obviously, but it does mean that he can protect himself from the net damage, at the very least. Just limits the effectiveness of that snare. He can afford to run click 1, take the tag, avoid the net damage, and then clear the tag, click 2. So he can play safe, won't have to draw up, but I doubt he has any recursion, so it's only a one-shot. He can only protect himself from a snare once. We already know one's gone into archives. I don't know if it was shuffled back in with Jackson Howard. It's a distinct possibility. But there is a real gap, there's a real mid-game lull here, where now Taurian can score agendas with impunity. R&D interface, which is absolutely fascinating in a deck he knows has snares. It's dangerous. Very dangerous. Although again, I guess it's May rather than Maker's Eye, which can be lethal. I guess with R&D interface you don't have to access both. He's going to click 80. Click 2. Click 3, he's going to run. Oh, risky. So it's a Grim. That's the front piece of ice, which I can just about make out over the glare. He's got the Crypsis to break it, but it's going to cost him 6 to break through in a Crypsis counter, so not cheap. He's going to have a look, and he's going to score. And it's a geothermal fracking, so that's another 2 points, taking him up to match point, effectively. 5 points now. All he needs to see is a 2-point agenda, and he's got the game. So a very worthwhile run, even if it did cost him a few bob. The important thing was he didn't see a snare, and he did see. Well, and he obviously gets the bad publicity as well for the Res Grim. So economically now, in very strong position. Still has the Katie churning out money for him when he needs it. Speaking of money, there's the hedge fund, the Taurian. Another piece of ice on R&D.
Yeah, he doesn't want to talk to you. He hates you for some reason.
And he's going to draw. Oh, sorry, I think he forgot to draw rather. So he's just doing his mandatory draw at the end there.
Quick, eat his Chinese.
So it's sealed down pretty tight now. That's an expensive server to get through. Obviously, you can blow for Enigma for free, but again, I'm not quite sure why he hasn't trashed it. I'm assuming he's hoping to res an archer and pop it off the board. I think I would have trashed it though, for sure.
Eat the rest of the Chinese.
Save myself another credit, 2 credits.
Only an hour. No, you have. Just then. No.
I guess the other potential issue is memory limit. Without the Desperado, he's got a memory limit of 4. He already has the a use of 3. So you'll be careful about your breakers. What you install, what you get rid of. You don't want to take all your code gates off the board, only for them then to remove their YOG. And you're struggling. With another card again in that remote, and plenty of money on the table, it becomes a real issue. You can score those agendas, and you cannot be sure that there's not an archer there. So Cryptus countering through on Katie. Again, probably setting up for the next turn. So discarding a YOG. Again, I know Dave's deck's very fond of having backup plans in case of meat or net damage loss. He likes running 2 of each of his key icebreakers. Especially in Andromeda where there's no recursion anyway. Getting rid of an infiltration. So I didn't want to have a look or a peek at what was in the remote. 3 unres pieces of ice. There's not really a great deal of point looking there. Maybe again with him drawing up, you've got to perhaps assume that it was probably a face down snare. Another hedge fund. Lots of money. And again, at this point now, you have to assume he has all the pieces of the puzzle. He's got everything he needs. Everything he needs for the Scorched Earth. Soon as Dave drops below the card limit, below 4, he can immediately go straight into a false lead, and then if he has better superior economy, he can seesaw Scorched. So it's difficult on Data Sucker, taking him up to his full memory limit as it stands. So looking to get through Grim for a lot cheaper. Looking to lock down R&D potentially. Playing it safe, playing it very cautiously. This is the final, don't forget, so there's no reason to be hasty, other than the fact that my camera battery's running out. So consider it. We have to assume at this point that's not an agenda, otherwise he would have scored it. This is the kind of stage where a corporation wants to see them, wants to see the agendas. Please give me some in my hand. Protecting archives, looking to make sure he can't get any free Data Sucker tokens. They can pay for them. Particularly because it does limit his archers significantly, as well as his Grims and high strength ice. You can use them to break through. Very methodical game. Just a quick reminder to those of you that are subscribed to us, we have our own website at Netrunners.co.uk. Please go and have a look. We have our forums, which you're more than welcome to contribute to, and a whole bunch of articles, including the new set review for Second Thoughts and the breakdown of the Corp and Runner matter. So please go through and have a look. We would be more than happy to see you. So he did run archives there and hit, I believe, a Bastion. Again, I'm kind of guessing because it's a bit of a challenge to see without with that kind of glare on it. Yeah, there's definitely a Bastion. And a wall static there, the 3rd piece of ice on R&D. So he's needing his barrier breaker now. He bounces off those ice and just puts 3 on KT. It's again, he doesn't want to leave his pot dry. The Data Sucker unfortunately didn't get any love there.
Worcester, Massachusetts is a town like any other, but it is the contrast between
But R&D is vulnerable. If he can find his corroder, he can get through with relative comfort. Obviously the Grim is expensive, but he'll start building up the Data Sucker tokens to get through it. Discarding a lot of cards. I mean, maybe at this point you've got to assume that that's a Jackson Howard in the remote potentially. Or he's just getting rid of the cards he doesn't feel he needs. or waiting for the moment to come. So he's gonna go in special order again, presumably for the. Yeah, there it is on top. That's just typical. It's always the worst thing. Doing a special order and then finding the card you want on top, or a hostage.
Unless you can hook it up to a...
So, what's he gonna take? What's he gonna get rid of? That's the question. Is he gonna get? See, again, he can't get rid of his Yogg. He needs that still. So. Well, is he gonna? He's gonna replace the Data Sucker, which doesn't come as a huge surprise.
Exactly, yeah. And then, but after a while, if I'm busy doing something else, and then people second to it, yes, I fucking heard it the first time. I already got told.
Yeah, just very cautious, building up his Katie pool again, trying to ensure he's got the money for the late game. Break through those servers as and when needed.
Tiny towers can act fine. You have to build a...
Is it good? I was tempted to buy it.
Tiny tower is fun.
Oh, and there's the other hostile takeover. So even more money in the pot, another bad publicity, taking it up to 3. And certainly it's very tentatively balanced. It's yeah, it's absolutely. You know, he's only on 3 points, but that's only 2 more agendas effectively to win the game. He scores 1 more, the pressure's on. He's gonna first click take his Katie money. With the R&D interface, you can blow through and look at 2 cards on R&D. Again, he only really needs 1 2-point agenda and he's won it. So the potential for a glory run here is pretty good. You've got to assume he's put some there in the archives too. I would assume anyway. Discarding a lot of cards. Haven't seen a single run on HQ until now, so this should be interesting.
You know, on level 380 something of Candy Crush. Yeah. It's really got a bake. Yeah. You gotta sit there.
Taurian giving some thought as to whether he wants to res the ice. Again, he wants to try and get ahead in economy. He wants to, as soon as he's ahead of economy, he can scorched away, happy as Larry. So every penny he spends resing ice makes it even longer for that combo to effectively get there.
And then you sit, what you can do,
A very delicate balance.
so people arrive and you have to take them to the floor, and if you do that, then you get money. And also it takes time, the time that you will be spending building the next thing, which makes you...
Oh, I think he's running R&D, rather, I should say, by the looks of it. So he's going to go through and break with the bad pub. Use the Cryptus counter to go through the wall of static. Another Cryptus counter to go through the Grim.
If you think you're going to get tempted to spend 2 hours at a time operating...
And obviously gets through the Enigma for free. Looks at 2 cards. Nothing.
And also, what this one has is a tiny...
He was a little bit, obviously he was hopeful there. Hopeful of seeing the final agenda. But very cautious. Again, there's only been a handful of runs in the whole match. And he still sits pretty on 5 points.
You can't stay there. You can't go home, you can't stay here.
Oh, have you played into nourishing?
Infiltration for 2.
It's good. It is good. It is good. They're also doing...
It's always nice. There's a little backup economy card there. Nothing to write home about, but it's better than a poke in the eye of the shop. Or blunt stick. Having a look to see what he's put face down there in archives.
It looked fantastic.
Trashing and resing. So we've got the Jackson Howard back on the board. No, it wasn't a Jackson, it must have been a snare. Which means that 2 snares have now gone, I believe. At least 2, unless then again there might be another one face down. Suddenly the threat of snare is pretty much no more with a Deus Ex on the board as well. He can shuffle them back in with Jackson, which wouldn't be a bad play at this stage because R&D is vulnerable. Interesting, so we're installing another card there with an upgrade outside of the ice. Oh, 3 cards, so there's 2 upgrades and an asset in there. Or is it? No. What's he doing? Sorry, I think he's discarding cards. I do apologise. I think he's finished his turn and he's he's not his. Hang on, what's going on? No, he is. He's just discarding. That's what he's doing. He's drawn up a heck of a lot with Jackson there, and he's deciding what to keep and what to get rid of. So you'll have to forgive me there. I was being a little bit special. Oh, hang on a minute. 3 upgrades? I don't think so. So again, there is that one snare. We already know that's probably one face down snare. So you got to wonder how many snares he's got left. Whether it's in hand, whether that last snare is in the R&D still, whether it's already gone face down into archives. And at this stage, this is a very crucial stage in the match. Taurian is, I think, effectively trying to decide, can I still get Scorched here? Can I get Scorched Earth, or am I better off playing for the agenda win? It looks like he's got a lot of agendas there in hand. I think this is the stage where he shifts gear and just says, actually no, I'm going to run hell for leather. So we're going for an account siphon on HQ, rising a Grim, another bad publicity, just in case Dave wanted another one. So it is going to cost him to get through, and if that last piece of ice is an archer, well, then he's in for a world of pain. It's a difficult one. So, is he going to res his next piece of ice? He is, and it's another wall of static. Which he can break through with Corroder. And he's going to take his money. Thank you very much. So that's 5 credits lost and 10 credits gained. 2 tags. And again, it's first click, so unsurprisingly the first thing he's going to do is clear the tags. So he's got 1 click left. So now Scorched is looking pretty much next to impossible. If he hasn't ditched it yet, I suspect he probably will. There's no way. There's too much money in his pot. He doesn't have enough. He's got a humongous quantity of bad publicity. And all of a sudden, it's all about the agendas. Scorched Earth is now off the table. So it's green level clearance. Another green level clearance. Difficult now with the full breaker suite out. Agenda wins and that remote server are vulnerable. You would have to assume that there's an archer in that remote somewhere. He doesn't really have to go there. He can just as easily sweep through into R&D. The question is, what's he going to shuffle back in? If he uses duty, he is going to use his Jackson. So what is he going to shuffle back into his deck? Is it going to be the snares? Is he going to shuffle back in agendas, which he's discarded? I mean, if there are agendas in there, he has to shuffle them back in with the Jackson off the board now, and that's 2 Jacksons he's used. He's only got the 1 left. And again, with Dave on match point, has to protect himself. So 3 cards to go back in. What are they going to be? Is he going to lock down R&D with snares? Or is he going to play it safe, put the agendas back in he may have discarded? Doesn't really need the economy still. Ah, he's putting back in ice. That's interesting.
Good thing is that if you don't, if you download it on your pad,
Not a huge amount of cards left there either. It should be mentioned. So the first thing he's going to do is run archives, which seems sensible. Test his honesty. Make sure he's playing the game. I would too. Got to make him work for it. Oh, maybe he didn't actually. Sorry, I tell a lie. He's drawing up. Another account siphon. Interesting. And again, he's doing it on click 2, which does potentially leave him vulnerable for the Scorched Earth. So again with the false lead sacrifice. Again, you have to assume at this stage that Taurian has abandoned it, and I think that that Dave recognises that. I think he knows that he stopped gunning for him. He runs and scores. Sorry, so he runs, sort of drains HQ, and then Taurian scores the agenda for 3. So now it is on. It's all about the next agenda. Scorched this off the table. So much money. Obscene amount. He's played the tag, so there's no tags either. Taurian on a paltry 6. I think there. And Dave sitting pretty on, I think, close to 30 credits. We're going to run R&D, looking for that final winning agenda. Breaks through. What's he going to see? Ice and nothing. Possibly a beanstalk there. Draws back up. There's no rush, but as soon as a card touches that remote server, you have to worry. He knows it's not going to be the top card, but that doesn't change if he's got one in hand. Can he protect it? And if he can, well, that's the game. But the amount of money that he has there on the table, you have to say the chances of him being able to protect anything in that remote is next to nothing. All he needs is 3 Crypsis counters, and he can run, and he can get through anything, Archer or no. And if there's an agenda at the bottom of it, he wins the game, unless it's a 1-pointer.
I was kind of hoping the R&D poll was going to be the game winner, to be honest with the timing.
So does he dare? Does he dare put an agenda there? No, he doesn't. He takes money instead. But again, his hesitancy to me indicates that he probably has the agendas in hand that he needs, the agenda. I would suggest Dave is probably feeling that as well. And again, you've got to assume there's an archer there somewhere. So it's going to cost the money to get through. Let's go to run archives and have a look. Doesn't see an agenda, but does see a lot of other things. He definitely sees a snare there, 2 snares, 3 snares, and the Scorched as well. So, again, he knows he's not going for Scorched Earth. I feel I should warn you at this point that my camera battery gives up, and so we're about to cut to a phone camera. Ah, there we are. Yes, it gets even more low-tech, ladies and gentlemen. As my camera died, we then actually went to... someone very kindly taped it on their phone for me as well. And it's even harder to see what's going on from here, which I apologise for profusely. But I thought you probably want to see the end of the game. I certainly did. So I'm going to do my very best to describe the last couple of minutes of the match. As you can see, there's not a lot left. It's all coming down to this last agenda. And so you will be, entertained by shaky cam vision. What a joy. I promise. I promise it'll get better. Stick with me, guys. Stick with me. At least you get to see them in all their resplendent glory. Taurian looking smart as always dresses up for the Netrunner occasion. Dave, well, less so. But, that doesn't change the fact that he's supremely good. So it's a very, again, tentative, precarious point in the game. Dave feeling a lot more assured now that the snares and Scorched are pretty much off the table. So we're going to, I think it's that Dirty Laundry there, R&D, HQ, sorry. And he's going to look for that last agenda. He's got plenty of cards in hand to look at. Doesn't see an agenda. Again, with the amount of bad publicity he has, he can run at his leisure. Doesn't want to overextend. He could still be holding on to 2 Scorched Earths, potentially. I don't think he is, but he could be. It's not something you want to take for granted anyway against Weyland. I didn't see exactly what was in archives, but He's going to play, I believe they're a emergency shutdown on the Grim. Yep. So HQ vulnerable. Very vulnerable. That emergency shutdown potentially means that his hand can be run as many times as he wants. I think he's almost egging him on, egging him to run in and to place an agenda there in the remote, saying your hand's not safe. Are you then therefore going to put all your agendas down in remotes and try and score them out? Something goes down there and it's advanced twice. You have to assume that's an agenda. Could be it could be a government contract. It could be all he's got left there to score is the 3-point agenda. Not ideal. Could be a trap. Could be a single copy of Junebug maybe. Unlikely, I suspect, but could be. And again, if it is, with the net damage, well, he's got the Deus Ex, so he could avoid the net damage. It's not the end of the world. He's not going to run there unless he has to. He's going to run his hand first and run to have a look, see if he can spot that key agenda that he needs to win the game, which he does, and that's the match. It was a great game. It's very close. Asking a couple of questions, but thank you for joining us, guys. Hope you enjoyed it.